joined today by the brilliant Amy Hind, our conversion consultant. She is going to be taking us through how to revive your CRO and grow your brand. This talk was brilliant. She did it at Building Brands in the summer, and it went down really well, didn't it? And you had lots of people coming over to our stands to ask more questions about it. So we thought it was absolutely worth hosting on our LinkedIn Live as well. So I will get the slides up. If anyone has any questions at the end, please drop them in the comments. If you're watching on catch up, you can still drop them in the comments and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tilly.
Over.
Yeah, like you said, this went really well last time. I'm hoping it goes as well this time. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. But any questions, yeah, drop them in. I'll answer them either as I go through, or I can get back to them at the end as well. But yeah, so I guess first things first. First thing I wanted to kind of, as a little introduction, I guess, is this is what I want to be talking about, is kind of the murder of CRO, the murder of kind of conversion rate optimization, potentially, or how we can kind of revive and rework that kind of discipline in a way where it kind of applies to all stages of the funnel. So at the end of the day, if you take anything away from this, I want it to be that CRO is a full funnel strategy. It is a toolkit that you can use, and it's not limited to websites. But first of all, what is CRO? I understand, it's a little bit more of a niche. Some people know it, some people may not be as familiar with it. But CRO, or CRO as some people call it, is conversion rate optimization. And it is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's a way to improve or optimize your conversion rates on the website specifically. So this definition I've taken from Google, the systematic process of increasing the percentage of website or app visitors who complete a desired action. This is a great definition of CRO. I don't think there's kind of too much contention within that. I think it does, as I said, pretty much say what it says on the tin. But I do think it's a little bit limited. It holds you to a standard of expectation that this is just websites and this is just apps. So I'm going to be running through that today. But before I do, I want to take a quick flashback to 2022. Wasn't that long ago, but it was the beginning of my kind of marketing career. So if we look back at 2022, I was working in B&Q. I was designing kitchens and bathrooms. And I got my first ever kind of industry office job after that. So I was working for a different marketing agency. I went straight into CRO. I'd never heard of it before. Didn't really know much about marketing, but was super excited to learn. I had an office job for the first time, new industry, lots of stuff to look at. And I was essentially just feeling completely bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We went to my first ever kind of industry conference. I learned a lot of stuff. I didn't understand a lot of it. It was very over my head, but I was super excited and keen, to learn from the experts of CRO, learn more about kind of the discipline as it is. There was one thing that kind of kept popping up throughout, lots of people coming up and saying, kind of throughout the talk and throughout the day, one thing that kept popping up was that CRO is dead or CRO is dying. This obviously didn't fill me with a massive amount of confidence, new career, bit scary. But I think essentially what the main topic was AI coming, stealing our jobs, CRO discipline will be dead. With 4 years on now, I think people are still saying the same thing and it hasn't gone. But what I think the important thing to acknowledge is that it's evolving. CRO is changing. And what I want to propose is that we don't just let it die, we let it grow and we help it grow. So why should you care that CRO is dying? Maybe you don't want to. Maybe it's not something that kind of it's not a tool that you use on your day-to-day. But essentially, as a marketer, your performance is always going to be judged by the ability to make good decisions with imperfect data. And what CRO is at its core is a way of understanding this data. So should we let CRO die? I don't think we should. I don't want it to die. As I said, I think it would be much better if we could help it to evolve, to apply to the full funnel strategy. I don't think anything in that CRO definition, a systematic process of getting users to do what you want, essentially, there's nothing in there that has to specifically apply to websites. So before I go on and tell you how I think we can apply it for full funnel, we've kind of touched upon who I am already, but why you should be listening to me. I've worked in the industry for about 4 years. I'm an experimentation consultant, and I have a degree in media. But most importantly, I no longer have a mullet. This is something that has come up a lot for me, but I'm experimenting with something new, and we'll talk about more of that. So going back to this definition, as I said, the systematic process of increasing percentage of website or app visitors who complete a desired action. We don't have to limit this to website and app. We can do ads, we can do any stage of the funnel. But this is essentially what it's saying. It's been before. You have a bad version of the website, make some changes, hopefully it's better, more people are doing it. So what is this systematic process? The first stage, research and insights, qualitative and quantitative research. There's a bunch of different methods we can use. We can do review mining for reviews that you already have for your brand. We can do usability testing, surveys. We can look in GA4. We can do heat mapping using tools like Clarity. There's a lot of different ways that we can use research to get some insights. The next step of this process, turning those insights into hypotheses. So first thing is we want to have a strong hypothesis. We want to make sure it's defining a problem, proposing a solution, and identifying your measurements, what metrics you're going to be tracking, how are you going to determine the result of this experiment. We then want to turn those hypotheses into tests. So we can do this for sure with website A/B testing. Historically, this is where CROs lie. But we can also run experiments within Meta. We can run experiments within Google. We can run experiments in a variety of different ads platforms. And then we turn those tests into results. Sometimes they win, fantastic. Sometimes they don't, that's okay too. But what's the important thing is we want to analyze those results. We can implement the winners, and those that don't win, we can iterate them, we can learn from them, and we can take the learnings from that to influence where we go next with the direction of either our website or with our ads as well. There is nothing in this definition or in this process that says this has to be limited to websites. I know I'm going to keep harping on about that, but this is the crux of what this talk is formed on, is applying this to all different types of platforms and mediums. So looking at the type of research we can do, how can we apply this to ads? Usability testing maybe isn't something specifically that has been used on ads in the past, but we can utilize this tool, amend how we're doing our kind of research in a way like this that we can show here. So we've shown 2 examples of client ads to some people within their use kind of ideal audience within their ICP. We can ask them what their reactions to the ads are initially, how well the ads align with their priorities and challenges, the things that they think of before they convert. And if anything is unclear or off-putting, we can ask a variety of other questions as well. But here's an example. So this is one that we've shown, as on the previous example, we showed these 2 ads side by side and asked our users to give us some thoughts on kind of the pros and cons of the ads, what the general feedback was. At this point, normally I'd ask for some call outs. If you want to put a message in the chat about what you think people said about these ads, please do. But I'll just kind of run through. We had some people say that they wanted to see more about prices. We had some people say that they wanted that they kind of preferred one image to the other because, you know, it had nature and made them think of hiking and more adventure and activities. But most importantly, or most prominently, we had people saying that the ads look AI generated. It doesn't look like a real photo. Or these photos look CGI and I'd rather just see a real photo of Iceland. So some of these responses, this bottom one came up for this ad on the right with the mountains, which is a okay, I cannot play it, but I will share the link afterwards with
Well
this.
worth a watch, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It is.
Ever.
Yeah, it's a great ad that we've done. It's a 2-minute video where Gisley in this ad here has spoken to a bunch of real people in Iceland, and pointing out things that are real that don't seem it, the geysers, and some of the beautiful views, the Blue Lagoon, that people don't think are real because they don't see it. And what did we see from this? When we ran this ad, we saw we had a 23% lower cost per acquisition. We still had an 11% lower cost per search, and then a 40% higher ROAS. This is based on the previous period. And we saw a massive kind of increase in our ad performance compared to this previous period because of this whole campaign. That said, not everyone has this. So this, going back to this initial test, changing one ad still is massively impactful. And depending on your budget, depending on the traffic and stuff you have, you're always going to have different capabilities. So it's important that you scale your kind of ads and your hypotheses to the kind of tools that you have with you, the resources that you have available. Because it is a lot of work, but we can break it down using this hypothesis to insight to test. We can break it down into much smaller ads. Here's how we can break it down even more. We looked at customer reviews for one of our clients. This is a dog food client, and the 5-star review said that it really suits their pets' sensitive stomachs. So we took that messaging and put it directly into our ads. This is a Google ad that you can see next to it with sensitive stomach approved. Here's another example from looking at our reviews. Our hypothesis here was that customers for this brand, for Weird Fish, they were influenced a lot by social proof, but we didn't have that much in the ads. And so we wanted to use direct language taken from testimonials, from the reviews that we already had in our Trustpilot at our disposal, really. And we believe that adding this to our ads would resonate with the users and increase our click-through rate and our conversion rate. And we saw that it did. We saw really positive results from this, which is great. Here's another one that we did. Our hypothesis here was that a video would show more of the product's features. People would be able to see more details. The movement would give us a better shot of it. And so our hypothesis of this was that this would increase the click-through rate and our conversion rate by adding the video. Our existing click-through rate was 3.03%. And the click-through rate that we moved on to was only 2.36. So this one didn't win, and that's fine. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes they win, sometimes you can implement them straight away. Other times you're learning. Businesses that run up to 15 experiments in a year are more likely to see up to a 30% higher ad performance compared to ones that aren't running any experiments. And this is just within that first year. After that first year, it goes up to 45%. Not all experiments are going to win. I think something like 1 in 10 experiments is a winner. But the important thing to remember is the learnings you're getting from that are just as valuable as if it won. We learned from this experiment that using ads, using videos in our ads damages our performance. If we had gone straight out with that change, then we would have seen a negative impact on our ad performance and we wouldn't have known why. So being able to experiment with that and then in a controlled way was massively valuable and helped us kind of save ourselves a lot of time and a lot of money in the long run. So how do we keep track of this? If we do one big piece of research, we can get a ton of different insights, and that's in turns turns into a ton of different hypotheses. It can be exhausting. And so what we do is we use a tool, Airtable. We set up a learning library and we have our experiments. We can add the title, what the hypothesis is. We track the status of them as well. And then the performance, whether or not they've won, if they're inconclusive, or if they've lost. And then it means that we have a bank of the ones that are in our pipeline. And it also means that further down the line, if there's a change in team, or even, you know, it's just a couple of years down the line, nobody's going to remember all the experiments they've run. If somebody proposes a change to the website or a change to their ads, we can look through and say, you know what, in the past, this has worked really poorly. We don't want to do this again. Or we can say, this is how it used to look. And when we ran this experiment, we saw a massive increase by changing it. So we want to keep with what we are. We want to keep a constant cycle of experiments. We want to retest, and we want to keep track of all the learnings that we have as well. So what am I asking you to take away from this? As I said, CRO is a toolkit. It's a collection of methods that you can use to improve your performance at all stages of the funnel. So what I want you to do, and what I'm proposing you do, is to embrace the process rather than just the discipline. So that process is researching and creating insights, turning those insights into hypotheses, hypotheses into tests, and then turning those tests into results real time on your websites, in your ads, and across any platform. So that's my spiel. You can kind of read a little bit more, or you can get in touch with us using the QR code that's on the website, on the page at the minute. And we'd look forward to hearing from you. I think we have time for some questions as well.
I will open up to questions, and I will pop the QR code in the corner. Thanks, Amy. That was brilliant. Amazing takeaways and love the examples. And well done for saying hypothesis so many times.
It's much easier than having to say statistical significance multiple times. So I quietly left that out of this presentation.
Right, let's just have another check to see if there's any comments. If anyone has any, please drop them in, or you're welcome to contact us afterwards. I think we've got one. It's just not showing up on my screen right now. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. Yep, I can't see it right now, but we will pop our answer to it later on. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect to me.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Nice. Awesome.
Thanks,
Cheers,
everyone.
Billy. Thanks for joining, everyone. Cheers. Bye.